Rosalia's new album Lux is one of the most creative albums that I've heard in the past 5 years. Vince Gilligan's brand new show Pluribus might be the most interesting cultural moment of the year. We are about to re-enter the world of the man who walked on the moon. Welcome back to another episode of Behold Pop Culture, the show where we take a look at all the biggest moments across culture from this past week and make sure that you're never missing out. This week, one of the best albums of the year came out. Rosalia's new album Lux is one of the most creative albums that I've heard in the past 5 years. Rosalía is a Spanish artist who bursted on the scene, blending flamenco, urban beats, hip-hop, and an R&B sound, all with audacious visuals to tie them together. With her last album, Motomami, she made it clear to the world that she's a creative force looking for a medium to express herself. This time she leaned in even harder, collaborating with the London Symphony Orchestra for an album that is sung in 14 different languages throughout this 18-song project. This adventurous pursuit has become a common theme for pop artists today. We saw it with Doja Cat, we saw it with Taylor Swift, who's still dominating the charts, but after a couple days sitting with this album, Rosalía has trumped both of them and everyone else who attempted it this year with this album. Her singing in a plethora of different languages alone introduces a level of globalization to her music that virtually no other pop star presents today. But not only is she bridging the gap on a linguistics level, but when you actually look at the lyrics, and I'm thankful that Spotify was able to translate all of these lyrics for me, she's attacking themes of femininity, transformation, independence, and is invoking biblical allegories to view herself as a pilgrim on the path towards true love. Constantly juxtaposing street knowledge and sanctimony, creating a tension for her art to breathe within. So I could endlessly compliment the melodies that she used, the level of lyricism that I believe she excelled within, and multiple moments that blew me away with the actual sonic experience that I was going through. But the real takeaway is a new chapter on this long list that I've been building of pop stars really maximizing what music can accomplish. At its core, it's storytelling to a high degree. Unfortunately, with it being so easy for any person to pick up an instrument, to make a song on their computer, and to now put it out on these different platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, so on and so forth, millions of more people are official artists than there were in the past. And within that, we find that many artists reach their peak faster than usual. You fall in love with a sound, you push that to the max, and it seems like within the last couple of decades, there's been more one-hit wonders than ever, because now you can be a SoundCloud one-hit wonder, an actually signed artist who's a one-hit wonder, or someone who just went viral on TikTok. When you're identified in that way, few artists are confident enough to make a radical pivot, let alone a small one. But this album, Lux, is positioning Rosalía to no longer be seen as just a pop star or just a Spanish artist. She's bringing forth the level of creativity and sonic mystique that artists like Kanye West or Prince became known for. Not to say that she's reached that level, but I believe that her approach has a similar level of passion and determination towards making something truly fresh. For some, success is making a large amount of money. For others, success might be getting heard by the most amount of people. And for people like Rosalía, success might be defined as trying to change the game altogether, to be remembered more by those you've impacted than by the widest array of people. And it signals that within pop culture, you can mature, become more expansive, define more layers in the art that you produce. And for audiences, it invites a level of patience and appreciation for what's being put out. At a time where you can experience songs in a 15-second loop on a short or TikTok, Artists now have to go out of their way to earn your listen for an album. We have way too many options between streaming, watching a show, playing a game, seeing a movie, or just going outside and spending time with other people. It's never been easier to have access to all these different mediums, so why should I listen to your album? Here is a body of work that is actually rewarding you for taking the time to listen. On one end, we have Bad Bunny breaking barriers for Spanish-speaking artists, being one of the most streamed artists in the world, as he will, in this coming Super Bowl, continue to put that on the global stage. But on the other end, while Bad Bunny challenged the hip-hop trap sound with the ways that he mixed in reggaeton Puerto Rican influences, Rosalía is taking more of a traditional orchestral approach to her Spanish music. Both are similarly very talented artists, but because Rosalía is tapping into a more classical sound, quite frankly, it sounds more expensive, more highbrow, more intricate in the way the sound is approached. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is foundational and inspiring another generation of musicians. This album is not likely going to be one of the highest selling albums of the year, but pop culture isn't exclusively about how many records you sell. It's a combination of how widespread your influence is and how powerful that influence is. If your album is heard by many people, but is essentially tossed in a week, it might not actually be culturally relevant. But when an artist who's earned this magnitude is leveraging their resources to create their most experimentally challenging work yet every time they step in the booth, it's absolutely worth the attention of those who I believe would be interested. In fact, it's so good that I'm ready to personally declare this album signifying the end of the TikTok song era, the time where artists would step in the booth and very intentionally build TikTok-style songs, ones that are specifically just singles to end up with a lot of streams. I've now identified enough albums from major artists that have come out in this year alone that makes me believe there's a movement taking place for artists to focus back in on making a solidified body of work that's worthy of drawing people's attention to, where rather than trying to manufacture a hit, you create the music and after it's finished, then start to pick the one that you believe might have the most commercial success. There will still be artists who continue to excel and maximize that, a la a Tate McRae or a Cat's Eye, who have actually been trained in dance and TikTokification to master the way you optimize for that medium. But in terms of being the broadband strategy for all artists to use, the focus is back on creating songs that actually will change people's lives, or at least challenge them to perceive things differently for the moment that they're experiencing it. The main goal of an artist is to create experiences, not a moment that will be here today and gone tomorrow. This point might be even more greatly represented by the new hot TV show that's taking over the world by storm. Vince Gilligan's brand new show, Pluribus, might be the most interesting cultural moment of the year. Vince Gilligan is the creator of the shows Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. In my opinion, two of the greatest shows to ever have been made, with Breaking Bad having cemented itself in any credible top TV shows of all time lists. But rather than continuing to expand that world where Walter White and Saul Goodman exist within, he wanted to take a completely new stab at a brand new idea. This time asking the question, what if the world's apocalypse wasn't fire burning everything down, not a zombie apocalypse, not a disease taking everyone out, but instead bliss? What if everyone was suddenly, instantaneously happy, and the only unhappy person left is the one that's realizing that something is wrong? That's the world of Pluribus. An extraterrestrial signal becomes a virus for the planet that infects nearly everyone, making them a cheerful, smiling, hive-minded collective. But there's one main person who's immune to it, a woman by the name of Carol Sturka, played by Rhea Seehorn, who was a main character in the show Better Call Saul. So here we find ourselves in an anti-utopia built on joy. Asking us, the audience, the question, is forced happiness a gift or a prison? Flipping the script on a society today where we are so focused on our personal wellness, positive energy, and ultimately a pursuit of happiness. The main character, Carol, strongly rejects a world where happiness comes at the cost of what makes each person unique. This era of storytelling for television shows like this is one that's built on a structure that asks questions of the audience. This is a show that's especially relevant to people today. Everyone is having a different perspective on it. Some people think it's a commentary on our pursuit of wellness today. Others think it's a commentary on AI and how that is a way that we have created a sort of hive mind as it takes all the intelligence that's written and recorded of human beings and is able to turn it into a question and response system for us to leverage, all in some ways referring to the same well of knowledge. So if you're an artist or an everyday person, it pretty intentionally asks the question, how do you stand out and how much do you care about how you stand out? Do you prefer more of the groupthink, fitting in, having a strong community where there's not much deviation in the way that people operate? Many of us have grown up conditioned to want happiness, success in whatever form you define it as, and a sense of belonging. But there's layers of complexity around the ways that those can manifest themselves, creating the backdrop for Vince Gilligan to make a TV show about. A new episode is coming out every Friday, and as I'm watching it, the main question I have is, if every human had a hive mind, what would be the goal of humanity? Just to operate like any other animal being? Is it like a virus to just spread? Asking that question myself while watching the show then turned into a mirror of me looking inward to then say, maybe the best moments are when two unique people have a union. When you hold the door for that person at a store, when you make a new friend at school or work. These micro unions, I would say most people would agree, are a net positive for society. But if everyone is the same, those will never happen. It would be like a stagnant spider web, rather than constantly moving beings that are exchanging energies with each other and ultimately creating a greater good. The choice to represent this as a virus intrigues me, and I believe there's a deeper meaning behind that I might not have the answer to right now. But maybe the answer is to just invoke thinking among myself, among you, the audience, the viewers, and we'll see as the show goes on what the answer will be revealed to be. Now, one of the easiest ways to bring people together is through shared experiences, which often in our society is made by creatives, building spaces for people to share experiences. But there's one artist in particular who might have built the biggest, most expansive shared experience through their music, and that was the artist Michael Jackson, who they just released the first trailer for his biopic, where Michael Jackson will be played by his nephew, Jafar. We are about to re-enter the world of the man who walked on the moon, but did it by dancing backwards. The upcoming movie, titled Michael, might be the #1 cultural moment of next year. The story behind the dance moves, the controversies, the albums, the myths, told through the lens of how we remember him. This is a man who some say at one point was the most famous person on the planet. Some people say to this day that other than major religious figures, he is the most famous man of all time to walk the earth. The movie is coming out this upcoming April, and it already has millions of views on the trailer, proving that his legacy is still relevant today, over a decade later after he passed away. Mind you, this wasn't just an artist, this was a cultural brand, a legend. And it's coming at a time where we're still deconstructing what these celebrities mean in the broader scheme of our society. I spoke last week about the way that Kevin Durant has been reflecting on that. This week I'm mentioning the long line of albums where musicians are trying to re-explore themselves in popular culture through experimental sound. And this movie can either reinforce the legend, what we saw when we were more detached from celebrity lives, or challenge it and look deeply into the man in the mirror. The trailer only focused heavily on the performances. They know we're going to go crazy when we see Thriller, Beat It, the iconic dances, but it still touched lightly on the controversy that will likely tie the movie together through tension. This was a man who was famous since he was a child. He became the center of a level of fame that morphed into an ecosystem around him, from music to movies to innovation in that industry to speaking out about the ways that record labels worked. The movie itself had been delayed multiple times as they've been handling legal and ethical complications, likely around the people who represent his estate rejecting certain representations of him. So from the outside looking in, it continues to ask the question, how do you memorialize an icon with a complicated story, especially when admiration can collide with accountability? Michael was a global superstar, the global superstar of his time. You can't be born into that level of success. You can't manufacture that level of success. That is something that you have to earn when you're constantly in front of millions of people asking you to put out the best work that the world has ever seen. And you only become iconic when the people say you are, when millions of people say that you've changed their lives for the better. And people will build you up just as fast as they will tear you down. The movie theaters are going to be flooded with people hoping to relive these nostalgic moments, as Michael Jackson was the soundtrack behind many people's lives. But what I'm most interested in seeing and understanding how they portray is how he actually became Michael Jackson. Yes, we knew he was talented, but were the songs that much different? Or were the songs that much greater than the other ones that came out at the same time? Was he that much more talented? Was it the people around him who uplifted him, his team, who put him in positions to grow? As a child, he couldn't have known that he would be the biggest artist in the world, that he would in fact be the biggest celebrity in the world at that. So what decision points arrived in his life that allowed him to elevate to such a massive level of influence? That is what I'm hoping is revealed with this new movie, Michael. With that being said, we've come to the end of this week's podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to tune in and get caught up on the major moments that are taking place in culture. It feels like there's a shift happening in the creative aspects of pop culture, one towards celebrating uniqueness and taking the time to appreciate the art that's being put out. I look forward to seeing how this trend continues as we're back into the swing of some pretty major movies that are being released that I'd like to discuss, and we'll get to that next week. For now, this is Behold Pop Culture. I'll talk to you next time.